ESPN NW.
WGSX Lynn Haven, WVLQ Port St. Joe. Powered by Panama City Toyota.
And that's out of the ballpark.
ESPN, Northwest Florida.
Broadcasting from the CBC Construction Studios. Get ready.
Deep center field and heading for the horizon.
Sports Talk Radio will never be the same.
Onion pickles, onions, pickles.
The Afternoon Underdogs
Way back and gone.
on ESPN.
Northwest Florida.
Keep making noise! Keep making noise!
And welcome in. I was going to say it's a Monday, but it is a Tuesday here on this short week here. You're listening to the Afternoon Underdogs here on ESPN Northwest Florida. I'm Brian Haddad, sitting in for David Hayes this afternoon, and I am joined by the Tuesday crew here. Chef Ross, what's up, buddy?
Not a whole lot, living the dream.
And occupying the fishbowl this afternoon for us, Caveman Rick of the #1 Phillies.
No, not anymore.
By percentage points.
In the NL, but in the AL, the Detroit Tigers got them by 1 win. So,
Yeah.
It's all good, you know what I'm saying? Just technicality. I mean, I was like holding on to that, bragging about that, but now like the things changed a little bit. You know, I don't want to be bragging too much.
Well, you have fewer losses than anybody.
Yeah,
so
no
we'll
doubt,
say,
no doubt.
we'll say that. There we go. But anyway, we are your home for the Atlanta Braves, and your Atlanta Braves tonight will be taking on the aforementioned Philadelphia Phillies, just coming off their first loss after 9 in a row victories. So,
And not too shabby, not too shabby. I'm pretty
Absolutely.
proud, doing pretty good. So as long as we keep it rolling, you know, kind of keep the bullpen all right. You know, Alvarado, missing him, he's going to probably be a big deal, but I don't think we can get by. And I'm sure we got the money and we got the assets to, add somebody else here somewhere along the line, you know, if need be, which I'm sure they probably will.
I think this year's going to be an interesting deadline. I really do. I think there's going to be some fun moves, I think. Now, my big hope was the big Vladdy move, which I thought before the
That could
season.
still happen.
It could still happen, but that's a big contract to take on.
Yeah, him and Bo Bichette, you know, maybe they decide to do something different up there, and you know.
I've been thinking that for a year and a half now, but we'll see. I mean, they've. What I like about Toronto is they've actually tried to go out and get some big names to try and bolster. It just hasn't worked.
Well,
out.
and it's hard for them too.
Sure.
That market up there, they make all their revenue in Canadian dollars.
That's
They're
right.
paying out all their expenses in American dollars, which is like salaries, travel expenses, and such.
That's right.
So right there, you're behind the 8 ball, and it makes it kind of tough. And it's not a huge market compared to some other markets as well.
True.
So yeah, it makes it rough for them.
No doubt.
Do they have to pay tariffs to play baseball in America?
I don't think they have to pay tariff. I mean, maybe there's something crossing over travel-wise, but I doubt it. But, if they steal any more championships from them, we ought to just, slap a tariff on them for that.
Yeah, but I don't think we got anything to worry about them, especially
I don't
with
think
baseball,
so.
not for a while.
We don't. No, we don't. But we are your home for the Atlanta Braves. In fact, we're going to be dumping out just a little bit early tonight to get out to Philadelphia. First pitch, I believe, at 5:45.
Nope. Okay.
We got Spencer Strider going for the Bravos and Ranger Suarez, who is undefeated on the season, going
3-0.
for the Phillies. So should be a great matchup, and looking forward to that. But
Strider's second start, right? So he's got to get warm back up.
Third
it's a
start.
Okay,
Yeah, he's
I thought it was
0-2 on the
second.
season,
Okay.
actually. But yeah,
Right on.
third start, and but we'll see. It should be that thing. But welcome in again to the CBC Construction Studios. We got a great show lined up for you today. We're going to get into some headlines here in just a moment. But of course, since we missed Monday, we do have our best and worst of the weekend. We'll get to that at 4:40. Before that, man, one of my favorite days in sports is Sunday before Memorial Day. We do a lot of racing. So we're going to talk with R.J. Starcevich primarily about NASCAR and the Coke 600. Might sneak in an Indy 500 question or two.
And the sausage race.
And the sausage race. We're definitely going to get to that because that might show up in a little best and worst later. 5 p.m., we're going to talk to Steve Barnes from the RebelWalk.com about a lot going on. Obviously, softball, baseball, Ole Miss involved in both. I say that with a little grain of salt. But
First time for Ole Miss softball, isn't it?
that's right, and the only one of the schools that did not host a regional to make the field. So that's quite a testament to them to go through on the road twice. And then after that, we're going to get out Well, we have one last segment. We'll have a Major League Baseball segment that should be pretty fun at the end of the show. And then we will get over to the Braves here. Don't forget, you can call or text us at 850-215-6290. That is 215-6290. That is the Red Tees phone line, the brand that brands you. And our question of the day to text in or call in, who was the first pro or college athlete that you disliked? So why don't we kick it off here in studio with that, Chef Ross?
First person that came to my mind was Jim McMahon of the '85 Bears. Growing up in Wisconsin, I didn't like his attitude. I didn't like his bandana. And what's funny is he's got a ring with the Packers. He was Favre's backup.
That's right. Sure did.
So my attitude on him changed a little bit at the end of his career.
I kind of inadvertently went through mine last week with David. That we were just talking about just different, because I think last week it was first athlete you loved, and then I got into who I hated because I'm a negative person. But Joe Montana / Dwight Clark for me. Believe it or not, caveman, in my early days, someone in my family was a Cowboys fan, so I was like 5 or 6 at the time. I was like, yeah, I'm a Cowboys fan too. And the catch broke my heart. So I forever hated Joe Montana after that. But so he would be mine. Who was yours?
I haven't given it no thought, to be honest with you. My first, I have to wait and give you guys an answer later. Really think about who was truly my first player that I really hated.
There we go. There's a tease for us, folks. Make sure you keep listening.
Yeah, give me a little time. I'll give you a good
Caveman going to give us his first bout of hatred in an athlete. So this should be good, too. Yeah. Well, speaking of good, the Thunder hold off the T-Wolves here. Quite a game last night. 128-126, take a commanding 3-1 series lead. I did think they would get the gentleman's sweep. Of course, the true gentleman's sweep is when you're up 3-0 and you drop one, then you win it. But the Knicks put it on them there, or not the Knicks, the T-Wolves put it on them there in Game 3. I thought it would be more of the 3-0 and then get one, but we'll have to see on that. Of course, tonight we've got Knicks at Pacers in a very, very important game where home team is yet to win a game. So
that one this year.
That one should be interesting here. Any thoughts on Thunder going up 3-1 here? Is it just a fait accompli? They're going to be going.
I'm just
through?
shocked that after the performance of Game 3, and Edwards just disappeared last night.
Yeah,
same kind of thing. I don't think that the T-Wolves are going to come back. I mean, maybe win one more game. I could see that potentially happening, but I think it's Oklahoma's series.
It's one of those things where Oklahoma is a young team, and so we were kind of seeing kind of the roots, getting settled last year that they were going to be a team of the future. The T-Wolves, obviously a very exciting team, made a little deeper run last year. And, at some point, now that these guys they're coming in the league right out of their freshman year of college, they're playing so early, can we really get away with the fact that Ant is still a young guy? Because he can be as good as anybody when he's on, and he can be, like last night, he can just disappear. I mean, is that just the function of a young player, do you think?
That is too, and I think that's the league's fault, because they're pushing so hard to push him as the face of the franchise, or the face of the whole entire league, and you can't have the face of your league just not show up on your home court in a very important game.
Well, I mean, I think, too, he was not trying to, I don't say, be an alpha dog, take the game over, but trying to, get everybody else involved, too. Maybe in those moments, maybe he just needs to be the guy that just puts the team on his shoulders and just goes and very esoteric, just give me the ball and just try to score and do it himself. But maybe that's just not his style. Maybe he's just not that type of player. And if he's not going to, if that's not going to be like his game, normal way he can normally get himself up or play, to a higher level, then you might be asking too much. And maybe he just needs to have more help around him. OKC is a deep team.
Back in the day, and I hate always doing this, Caveman, you and I always do this when we're around, back in the day where there was a true delineation between amateur athletics and professional athletics. And, when rookies came in, they were rookies and made rookie mistakes. And it was 5, 6, 7, 8 years into the league before you became a seasoned professional like that. And, I think the thing that bothers me about Anthony Edwards, and he is so good when he's on, but if you notice, it almost seems like he has to be called out or challenged down 2-0 or something like that to respond. And then, so they get the win in 3, and then it's like, his foot comes off the accelerator. And when you are a professional, preparation is part of the game and the consistency of preparation. Again, I'm willing to give it out there as a young player, but I think you're right, Rod. I think we put so much on these young players to take over. I get the sense with Anthony Edwards, he doesn't know when he should take over, when he shouldn't. And I always worry about an athlete who relies on external motivation to get going.
Yes.
This is your job. This is what you get paid hundreds of millions of dollars over your career to do now. And he cannot, going forward, if he's going to be a star in this league, be that inconsistent in his preparation.
Well, maybe he just needs a different coach. Maybe he needs like that Phil Jackson type of coach that, can push certain buttons, whether it be through the media or through other, avenues in order to, motivate and kind of spark a fire. And, kind of get you to play a little bit better because, there is guys out there that can do that kind of stuff. We've seen it before. So maybe, he just he needs that proper motivation. And that's like how what NBA is now. I mean, it's not really coaching. It's not X's and O's. It's managing egos and personalities for the most part if you're like,
but let's give this coach some credit, though. He got the Minnesota Timberwolves to back-to-back conference finals. The Minnesota Timberwolves.
True. But he needs to avoid being like the Minnesota Vikings who keep getting to the NFC Championship and can't find their way through. So,
or like the Carolina Hurricanes in the hockey playoffs
100%.
right now. They're in the Eastern Conference, final again, and one win finally after was it 14 or 15 losses?
Yeah.
So the
Wild still have the craziest record. They're the only team to make the playoffs for 10 years in a row and not win a game.
Wow.
I think it's the series, but
I think it's
not win a game.
I was going to say, because that'd be very Cowboy-esque.
Yeah, because that'd be getting swept every series, and I don't think that's happened. So I think it's to win a series.
Well, speaking of hockey, the aforementioned Hurricanes did avoid the sweep. They beat the Panthers 3-0 last night to avoid that sweep. That, we talked about it going in with David. The Panthers this is a team that's just firing at exactly the right time. Obviously, seasoned professionals when it gets to it, coming off of last year. And, at this point, watching them and what they're doing and how they're firing on all cylinders, does it even matter who's coming out of the West?
No, hopefully it's Dallas so that we know that the cup does stay in America and the Canadians don't get it.
Actually, I want to see Edmonton win, man. Canada hasn't won since 93 when Montreal won.
They can keep the gold medals.
It's been a long time. I mean, I don't care if Canada wins. I don't want to see, I don't like Dallas, so I don't want to see them win, really. When it comes to Florida and Carolina, I'd honestly rather see Carolina win.
Sure.
I'm more of a fan of Rod Brindamore because he used to play for the Philadelphia Flyers, and he pretty much is my favorite hockey player ever. But, I just want to see some new blood. Edmonton hasn't won since 1990. So, I'd like to see somebody else. Dallas has won more recently. Florida just won.
Right.
Of course, Carolina won back in, I think it was 7 with Rod Brindamore, 06, 07.
Yeah.
So Edmonton out of the 4 has been the longest time without a championship. So let's go Oilers.
Yeah, I can't believe I said it, and I caught a lot of flack for it, but I was actually somewhat pulling for the Maple Leafs. A franchise that's that long-suffering, and, everybody was like, oh, you're Canadian now. I was like, no, but, there's something to be said for, the Rangers story in 94, I get a lot of people don't like the Rain, but that was a cool story, even if you didn't like the Rangers, and then you could go back to hating them again.
Yeah, and those original 6 teams, both of those.
That's
teams.
right.
So,
So Edmonton, I guess the Canadians won in 93. I believe that's the last Canadian
Montreal,
team to win. But Edmonton in 90 was the last run of that. Of course, earlier in the 80s, they had,
if you want to
3
call
in
it
a
a
row.
dynasty. Well, no, okay, so they had
3 out of 4.
2, then they had a break for a year, then they had 2 more, and then they didn't win for a year, then they had 1.
That's
so
right.
they won a total of 5 in 7 years.
Because I think actually Montreal won again in the middle of that to break it up.
86
That's right.
was Montreal.
But obviously that run with Gretzky and Messier and Curry and Grant Fuhrer and Paul Coffey, God, they were just loaded. But anyway, so we'll have to see. But I'm telling you, the Panthers, they just look super tough right now. Line on that Western Conference game tonight, Stars plus 130 at the Oilers. Oilers are at minus 150 on that. So, and I believe Edmonton is up 2-1 in that series.
I like Edmonton too. I think Edmonton wins this one, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was wrong last couple times, man. I lost some money last night on both of those games, on the basketball game and the hockey hockey game. I had Florida going, then taking it, and basically sweeping it out, and then of course Carolina does this. And I'm like, man, you got to be kidding me.
I would like to see them end fairly close to each other. I always hate when the one team has like 5-6 days before it's settled in another one. So if Edmonton can go on and close out 4-1, that'd just be a game behind, or a day behind. So we'll see how that goes. Obviously, another headline that unfortunately we hear way too much of this day and age. Over in England, Liverpool wins the Premier League. Of course, that's been decided for a couple of weeks now, but finished the season. They were having the big celebration there, which those are huge. I mean, we do big ones in the States, but, man, over there.
They know how to party overseas. Man, I lived over there. Trust me. They know how to get down. Like, Americans think they know partying. They don't know nothing, man. And the people over there, too, they can hold their liquor. Let me tell you.
Several 100,000 out in the streets. And unfortunately, 53-year-old British man plowed a minivan into the crowd. Now, fortunately, to this point, there have been no reported fatalities. Obviously, there were 45 to 50 injured. It does look like they're going to be seeking attempted murder charges. I know they were quick to come out and say this wasn't related to terrorism. Of course, I don't know exactly how you know that right out of the gate, but
how would you define that, anyways? I mean, anytime you go through like a bunch of people and do something like this, you're causing terror. Like, it should be. I mean, I understand it's not like probably like some militant person from another country, maybe in that form of terrorism, but it's still like terrorism. You know what I mean?
I think you're right, and I think initially, I think that was their. I hate to say this, I think what they were hoping to make sure and do is that there wouldn't be any, before the info came out, like no reprisals against maybe people of Middle Eastern descent thinking, oh, well, the driver had to be that because we've seen this before. Yeah. They definitely were quick to release 53-year-old white British male. It turns out he's from West Derby, which is not all that far from Liverpool. And, you thought if they were that quick to say it, maybe he had a medical episode or something like that.
Yeah, I'm curious to know, like, was he anti-Liverpool or was it just an accident? Because, I mean, like, you got all this going on. It's kind of like want to know a little bit more.
It doesn't appear so. So he's been arrested now on charges of suspicion of attempted murder, dangerous driving offenses, which is what they call reckless driving, basically, across the pond, and driving while under the influence of drugs. Now, this is where I think it's going.
I would figure drinking would be involved. I mean, we are talking about, overseas, like, in the UK.
Well, it's like you said, they can handle their liquor. It's their drugs they can't handle. But, I mean, you don't want to make jokes. But fortunately, in these cases, usually there's a lot. And there were apparently 4 people trapped under the vehicle when police responded. So
seems to be a theme, like it happened here last week.
But fortunately, it does not. We don't appear to have any fatalities at this point. Falcons quarterback Kirk Cousins is on the Steelers' radar as a contingency plan if Aaron Rodgers doesn't join the AFC franchise, according to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler. Kirk Cousins also did not report to Falcons OTAs as well. So certainly interesting there. What do you guys think? I mean, the way that the Steelers have conducted themselves has told me they have a plan. And I always assumed that was Rodgers. But how likely is this Cousins to Pittsburgh plan to happening?
I just want this Rodgers stuff to go away. I'm sick of seeing it on TV every time I turn it on. And then he goes and says, well, if I do play for anybody, they're going to play a game in Chicago. And my legacy for Green Bay is not going to get hurt if I don't retire as a Packer or whatever. I'm like, dude, just make up your mind. I did this 20 years ago with Brett. I'm going to retire. I'm not going to retire. I'm going to retire. I'm not going to retire. Let me play for this. Let me play for that. And I'm just sick of it. But Pittsburgh has to know a lot more than anything because they haven't moved on any quarterbacks at all. And their quarterback room is
I don't think Mason Rudolph's mother would start the season with him as the starter. I just don't. I don't get it.
I think you're giving Pittsburgh a lot of credit right now.
And maybe.
Who's to say they have a plan? I'm just saying, like, maybe they screwed the pooch. Maybe, and they're not coming out and saying, hey, we kind of flubbed it, and messed up here, hoping that, something happens between now and the start of the season where they can kind of find some redemption, find some other quarterback. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, like I said, no job yet. I would still think somebody's bound to get hurt. OTAs, training camp, preseason game.
Right.
And then when that happens, you can basically hold a team hostage, especially a team that's looking to win or is in win now mode,
That's
that their
right.
window's open and they need a quarterback. That's when the bag gets open and that's when he gets paid.
But-
so he just might have to wait till, August.
He's flat out shot down the Saints.
Yeah.
The Vikings shot him down.
Well, I mean, like,
now the only option right now is Pittsburgh.
he can say he shot him down, but then, I don't care who you are. Everybody's got a price, right?
Well, I mean, look, the Saints, the first 2 weeks of the year last year looked like the best team in football, and
they were
then
scoring
fell
like
apart.
60 points a game.
So who's to say, circumstances won't change? And, like you said, I mean, it's always easy to say, oh, they said they'll never bring him in. How many times have we heard that? And then hell freezes over, It's one of those things.
The story I haven't heard talked about more is Caleb Williams and not wanting to play for the Bears. That popped last week, and I really haven't heard a whole lot of, other than a headline that said he was trying to figure out a way to not get drafted by the Bears.
I would say it's not holding a lot of water if it's not being talked about.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of thing that it looks like you can kind of get through because obviously, I mean, I thought he actually exceeded expectations for me last year with the Bears. I mean, not by a ton, but I thought he did a decent job in his rookie season with a team that honestly is not that great, and he was running for his life a lot. So I thought he did all right, but we have a whole lot to get to here, and we'll get back into this. We've got a lot on softball. We got a lot on baseball. But coming up next, we are going around the track with R.J. Starcevich. You are listening to the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida.
It's the PCB Hobby Takeover with Todd. Mondays at 5:20 on ESPN Northwest Florida.
That is a very high-end card and very rare.
Todd talks about coins, trading cards, collectibles, and the amazing stories behind them.
It was the first one that's ever come through my door.
Plus, we'll be taking your calls and questions at 850-215-6290. The PCB Hobby Takeover.
A platform for you to do your hobby.
Mondays at 5:20 on the Sports Talk Monster. ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida with your Tuesday's weather. The rest of the day, there will be a moderate breeze out of the south-southwest, some sun, and 86. Mostly clear skies tonight, about the same at 78. Tomorrow, partly sunny and a light breeze right around 6 miles per hour with a high of 86. About the same at 84 Thursday, and we'll have thunderstorms and very light rain. This forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Tired of boring merch and want your brand to stand out like the big names? Elevate your look with Red 7 Tees. They don't just print shirts, they create bold identities. They are a veteran-owned custom apparel shop providing the kind of detail that turns heads, using high-quality digital printing and embroidery to give you that unique style you love with no minimums or cookie-cutter designs. From small business to sports teams, if you've got a vision, they'll help you wear it proudly. Visit red7tees.com.
Whether you're an experienced investor or first-time buyer, Beach House will provide you with top-notch service to guide you through every step of the process. We make the real estate process fun and easy through effective marketing, strategic advertising, and always a client-focused experience. From single-family homes to full-scale developments, Beach House Sales Development has you covered. Check them out at beachhousesalesfl.com or give them a call at 850-919-3500.
Broadcasting from the CBC Construction Studios. Don't call it a podcast.
Frequency modulation is a big step forward in radio.
Broadcasting live from the world's most beautiful beaches. The Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida.
And welcome back in to the Afternoon Underdogs here on a Tuesday afternoon. Brian Haddad sitting in for David Hayes this afternoon, joined by Chef Ross, Caveman Rick, and it's not Monday, but we're still going around the track with our friend R.J. Starcevich. R.J., how are you doing this Tuesday?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Doing well. I mean, I've always said one of my favorite days in sports is the Sunday before Memorial Day because it's not all left turns, but it's mostly. We go Monaco, we go Indy, and then we cap it all off with the Coke 600 there. Let's start with the Coke 600. Obviously had an interesting storyline in that we had our first, I believe, true worst to first from the field since Bobby Allison back in 1969. Give us a little recap of the race there in Charlotte.
Yeah, it has been a very long time, 50-something years, until we have seen that done. A true last to first. I know there's been a few last to first. The stat guys were really trying to figure out when the last time it was done without a penalty.
Right.
But, yeah, nonetheless, I mean, Ross Chastain to wreck in practice. He comes out there, doesn't qualify. It's a backup car. Those first laps, in stage one are the first time he's in that race car. And maybe it's because the race was that long, right? Maybe the 600-mile race saved him. And he comes there literally 590, something miles into the race and takes it away from William Byron, who had dominated all day long. But it's just a testament as to, never change that channel. You never know what's going to happen in NASCAR these days. But I would say that was, one of the more old school finishes that we've seen in recent memory. A long green flag run to the end, pit stops. You had a big battle between William Byron and Denny Hamlin all night long, just to be spoiled naturally by Ross Chastain coming in there and driving the wheels off that thing at the end. So it was really fun to see. I mean, just a really amazing night for the sport, and awesome to see Ross Chastain back in victory lane, smashing a watermelon in a crown jewel race.
Florida watermelon at that.
Yeah, I thought I had Denny Hamlin. I had money on him.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I thought, man, for so long, I was like, yeah, this is looking pretty good. This is looking pretty good. Last couple laps, why?
Didn't get enough fuel in the car.
Yeah,
yep.
It's unfortunate.
I think you're right. I do love those races where it comes down to that strategy. You got, the fuel windows, and you've got 2 tires, 4 tires. You got all these different decisions that can be made on pit road that'll affect.
Well, and the
things.
cautions can mess you up too.
That's
man.
right.
A little extra time here or there, man. Like I said, like with the fuel right there, an extra lap or two, and you're done.
No, that's right. Obviously, RJ, we every Monday with Dave, we always ask, who had low expectations, had an impressive finish. Hard to beat Ross Chastain on that one, so let me flip it. This may be easy too, but who was a driver who had high expectations coming in, but then maybe had a disappointing finish?
Yeah, I gotta give that to Kyle Larson, and I'm sure we'll mention him in this show. He was the big story of even if you were somebody that didn't really know much about racing, if you watched either of the races, a lot of people tune into the Indy 500 that don't watch racing. Some people turn into the Coke 600 that don't watch racing. You probably heard Kyle Larson's name and what he was doing or attempting to do for the second year in a row, and it just 2 years in a row, man, it has just not gone right for him. This time, Mother Nature complied, but the races did not. Spun out, wrecked himself basically on a downshift in the Indy 500, and that was unfortunate to see. And then in the Coke 600, just battling loose at the beginning of that run, and it just seemed like probably, I don't know, could have been just bouncing between both cars. He wasn't, couldn't commit as much as he wanted to in the stock car, and spun himself out, got some damage, and then ultimately got taken out in a wreck at the end of the night towards the middle of the race. So, yeah, definitely high expectations for what he was going to be able to do. We knew he had a fast Indy car. We knew he had a really fast NASCAR, and ultimately was in the garage for both of those races, which is certainly an unfortunate ending for what was such a cool story going into the weekend.
Let's kind of stay on that topic, because this is something that, drivers have tried for, back to, I think, Robbie Gordon, I think tried it, and there have been several others through the years. It's obviously great to bring interest. Like you said, people who maybe don't follow NASCAR would have been aware of what Kyle Larson was doing, but from a purely racing perspective, it just seems so brutal. If you're a NASCAR guy, you're going to Indy and equipment that you're not terribly familiar with, unless you came from the way maybe Franchitti did at one point, or Montoya, or guys like that. So you've got that going. You need Mother Nature to cooperate, and then you come and you've got to drive the longest NASCAR race of the year, where you do have, now obviously the championship comes down and Kyle Larson's going to be in the mix there, but if you're a driver who's so on top of things the way Larson is, yeah, it's good to get some eyeballs on it, but if you're really trying to win races, is this the best plan anymore?
Yeah, and I don't think it is, and I think he acknowledged that certainly in his post weekend presser, saying that it's a challenge, and he's learned 2 years in a row that this is just really, really hard to pull off. Especially with weather factors and things like that always factor into things. So, I mean, I personally don't think I see him attempt the double again. I mean, if it went super well this year, you never know. Maybe I'm sure it motivates him more to try it again down the road. But he says he wants to do an Indy 500 again, but that would likely, I would assume, be, at least in a few more years or at the end of his NASCAR career. And what people forget as well is this has been a whole week and a half, 2 week process.
Oh, yeah.
He's flying back from Indianapolis to North Carolina, a gazillion times probably in the last 2 weeks, because they were, testing Indy cars when they were racing at North Wilkesboro, flying in helicopters just to get to the race over there, the All-Star race, just to get to qualifying. And then you go to the Indy 500 where he's going back and forth between Charlotte to practice and qualify the car, and then Indianapolis to practice again. And so it's got to be so cutting when you get to Sunday, all the preparation, all the flights, all the travel, everything that you would put in to that weekend just goes up in flames in both races. So I'm sure he's just incredibly gutted. But, will we see him in another Indy 500? I guarantee it.
Hey, RJ, real quick, just wanted to ask about this. So in the Indy race, obviously there was a lot of, wrecks, a lot of people sliding into walls. We actually had a driver, hit some of his crew and stuff like that as well. Do you think that because of the Kyle Larson situation that both, IndyCar was pressured to start that race a little sooner with that track maybe a little wetter than it should have been so that they could try to get him to a point where they could start the race? Because he had like a 45-minute window where if the race didn't start and it was late, he was going to have to abort and he was just going to have to go to Charlotte. So do you think they were pressured at all to kind of get the race going a little early so that he could attempt this because of all the publicity they were getting?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always pressure there for either sport. I know, NASCAR, obviously, with the Coke 600, they altered some things around. I know last year they had moved some things around, and this year they had, just exempted him from missing the driver's meeting and intros and things like that just in case. And so both sports are well aware of the pressure that goes into this, the publicity. Do I think it influenced their decision? I don't think so. I'd like to not think so. I mean, I certainly think they sat a good amount during that delay. I think what we got was a cold track, which is hard to avoid when you don't have cars moving around. But it's also hard to tell because we were wrecking cars all week. I mean, it seemed like every time I checked my feed or turned my head, we had an Indy car flipping in the middle of a practice session. So it was a very bizarre week in general, I believe, for IndyCar, and I think it was going to set up for wrecks during the race, and it sure did. Cars going around. Now, did I expect Scott McLaughlin, one of the most talented drivers in the field, to basically spit himself out on the pace laps and hit the wall and end his hopes, which absolutely gutted for him. I mean, I cannot even imagine that feeling after all the preparation that goes into it. I didn't expect that at all, but I think they waited out as much as they needed to. It was just we had a cold track, and again, it was just a bizarre week. I mean, we wrecked so many cars in the last 2 weeks at Indianapolis, which, we'd have to get a stat count on how many torn up cars we had. But I feel like it's probably more than we've had in the last 10 years, I would say. Yeah,
and I think you're right, because I think they said on the broadcast it was the coldest the track had been at race start since 92. Yeah. And actually in that race, which everybody remembers for the finish, but in that race, I think it was Roberto Guerrero that actually had spun out on the formation lap from the front row. Yep. And it was same kind of thing, So yeah, I'm with you, but that was a good question, Caveman, because I mean you have to think it's at least in the back of the mind.
Yeah, well, when they were actually getting to start the race, I was thinking it's getting kind of close, and it seemed like they were going that route. I was like, I think they might be doing this a little too early, but hey, whatever's clever.
RJ, we come out of the Coke 600, and it kind of, whether it's the statistical midpoint of the season or not, just mentally it kind of is in that frame. So. Let's look at it from that mindset. Looking ahead, which teams do you think in NASCAR are kind of trending up, and which ones need to get some answers really quickly?
Yeah, I mean, that's technically a good point because we officially are halfway through the regular season, which is crazy to think about. Feels like I was just in Daytona, but time flies really fast. But we are halfway through the regular season. So as far as teams that are on it, I mean, Hendrick is on it. Joe Gibbs Racing as a whole has gotten better. We know Christopher Bell has been amazing. Denny Hamlin has also been amazing. Chase Briscoe now is on it. You know, gets a third place run in the Coke 600. And Ty Gibbs has been stepping it up a little bit. He's having some more consistent runs. Now, it's funny because I'm still going to say this to the team as a whole, but I was going to say Trackhouse certainly needs to step it up. But Ross Chastain coming out there getting a win, I think, is a huge sign. Shane Van Gisbergen getting a 14th place finish. He's always really good towards the end of these races once he gets his practice in. And we got a ton of road courses coming up, and I think he's going to get himself a checkered flag. So I think Trackhouse is certainly on the uptick, and they tend to do that in the summer. But a big team that I'm really kind of worried for right now, at least as far as their longevity, and it sounds so stupid to say this because, I mean, Coach, you know of all people what happens to Penske at the end of the year.
Yep.
But I'm going to sit here and be worried about those Penske Fords and their race pace and their ability to win. We know Joey Logano did just win, but Ryan Blaney keeps running into issues. Austin Cindric has been consistent. I'm going to say all this, and they're going to be fine when we get to the end of the season and somehow win the championship. You know how it goes. Yeah. But if I were to throw anybody else in there, I'm certainly looking for RFK Racing to pick it up. Brad Keselowski, 32nd in points, having an abysmal year. Finally just got a top 5 over there at Charlotte, so a good race for him. But Chris Buescher, 23rd in points. They did have a big penalty that they got hit with, where Ryan Preece is their best driver in points right now, which I don't think anybody would have predicted. So looking for them to pick it up. RCR as well. A little worried about Kyle Busch, still sitting 18th in points. We're waiting for him to get that win. But those are the teams that I would say I'm kind of in the middle about all of them. Yeah. And I think these summer months are really, really telling. This June and July coming up is really, we're going to see the contenders and the pretenders for sure in these next few months.
Just a very quick piggyback on what you said about Penske. Obviously a rotten week or so with the open wheel, group and having to fire Tim Cindric and other executives. Yeah. How much bleed over will that play into the overall organization and more specifically the NASCAR group?
I mean, we saw interviews, especially with Austin Cindric, and, they're going to give you obviously the typical PR, hey, we're just going to continue on this business, which they will, but it still does affect things in the shop. New people are going to take on new positions. People that were in the shop are not going to be there anymore. So it's going to affect things. Now, do I think obviously it'll affect the IndyCar side more than it'll affect the NASCAR side? Of course, because we know that this was developed and sprouted from the IndyCar side, not the NASCAR side. But Austin Cindric, that's his father that is now gone from the team. Do I think that affects Austin Cindric's seat? No, I think he still stays there. I think he's still performing. 15th in points, has a win this season, been consistent. I think he's perfectly fine. But as far as the morale of the team, it's going to be an interesting summer. I think we're going to see some rocky things, more so from the IndyCar side. But, like we said, Penske always finds a way, even with a rocky summer, to get it together by the time we get to September and October. And these days, that's all that matters over there in the NASCAR side. The IndyCar side, you can't slack. Full season point standings. They got to get it together next week. But in the NASCAR side, they can afford to have a rocky-ish summer as long as they get those checkered flags by the time we get to August.
So, RJ, if you could change one thing about the Coke 600, what would it be? And my thought would be push it to Monday, since we have a holiday weekend anyway. Give IndyCars Sunday and then run your race on Monday.
Yeah, I mean, that's selfishly, I enjoyed the hell out of Sunday, having all of the races. I mean, I woke up at the crack of dawn, watched Monaco, and I kind of compare it to, like, movie previews before the actual movie. Like, I got it on, but it's really not the most interesting thing in the world. So I'm enjoying breakfast. I'm eating my popcorn. I'm getting ready for the actual movies to start, which is the Indy 500 and the Coke 600. But I mean, moving it to Monday would certainly be cool. I mean, for ratings, it would probably, I don't know. Well, who knows what it would do to that. I do enjoy it being on a Sunday night. But the one thing that I would change is, honestly, the 4 stages. I think that we've seen that this car on the mile and a half has been fine enough to have these long runs. I mean, that's what produced us that amazing finish in the final stages. We were able to go green for so long and have those pit stops and have comers and goers. And while other people may prefer different things, but me as a person that loves racing, I enjoy a finish like we saw Sunday night 100 times more than a random overtime 2-to-go finish where we just wrecked the entire field and some random guy that ran 10th all race wins the race. I prefer what we saw Sunday night way over that. So I would love to just eliminate the stages, see how far we can run under green, really test these guys, test these teams. It's the longest race of the year. I don't want it broken up into 4 breaks where you get opportunities, guaranteed opportunities to catch back up to everybody. But we're far away certainly from ending those stages. In NASCAR, those guaranteed cautions. We'll see, but that's the one thing I would change. Honestly, it was a beautiful Sunday night. Amazon Prime, I don't know if you got to watch, but they absolutely killed it with the coverage of our sport. It was amazing to watch them cover it. Dale Jr. back in the booth was amazing to see. Carl Edwards was on the pre-race and post-race panel, so that was awesome. So I truly, truly enjoyed Sunday night, probably the most I've enjoyed any Cup Series race this season, besides being at the Daytona 500.
Absolutely. Golly, I feel like I could talk to you for 2 hours. I want to get 2 quick questions in. Let's look ahead to next week. Give me your top 3 drivers for Nashville.
Yeah, Nashville, I'm on the Xfinity side. I'm looking at Eric Almirola. He's running that race. He's always going to be very strong. Justin Allgaier, I'll roll in there in second. Always seems to be my 3. He's going to be very consistent. Then Ross Chastain is running the Xfinity Series race at Nashville, so look for him to be a contender up there for Junior Motorsports. And then on the Cup side, I was kind of bouncing between a bunch of things here, but Chevrolet is super, super good at Nashville, and they're going to take up my whole top 3 here. I think Chase Elliott, this is the race he gets back to victory lane. Yes, people have been, really hating on him because he hasn't gotten any victories, hating on the team, whatever, but he's 4th in the point standings. They've been incredibly consistent this year, just haven't gotten that win. I think they get it this weekend at Nashville, but if it's not him, I think Ross Chastain has very big potential to go back-to-back. He's won at Nashville before. And if it's not Ross Chastain, give it to a guy who's also won there before and's won a gazillion times this year, and that's William Byron. He's won once this time, but is a gazillion top 5s this year. That's William Byron in the 24. I think he's been, looking for redemption certainly after Charlotte.
And, I definitely want to talk to you next Monday about the Hall of Fame. We'll save that for next week because there's some interesting guys going in that I definitely want to pick your brain about. Last question for you today.
Well, I got one quick.
Or very quick.
Very quick. Can you break down the Oscar Mayer weenie race?
Great race, great aero package they got there, and it provided for a great photo finish, and I am excited to see it again next year.
All right, so that wasn't on Sunday, so I'll pivot. Last question, which was the best race for RJ on Sunday?
I got to go with, last year I feel like I would have said the Indy 500. I think I did. But this year I got to go with the Coke 600. I think flag to flag, it was a fantastic race. Indy 500 certainly had its ups and downs, had a lot of crashes and burns. Both great races. I was entertained, but the Coke 600. It just drew me in, and I'd say I enjoyed that the most out of Sunday.
I love it, RJ. Always love talking with you. Today on a Tuesday for us, real quickly, where can people catch you outside of listening to you on this show here?
Well, they can catch me on Motor Stardom on Instagram, and that is my media company for NASCAR and for racing. It was an incredible weekend covering all the racing, especially on Sunday. MotorStardom.com is launching up publicly very soon, and also the Motor Stardom Show, which we air on Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock Eastern, so we'll be live in about an hour and 20 minutes every Tuesday night. So
there we go.
That is the easiest places you can find me.
Perfect. RJ, as always, enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you next week coming out of Nashville.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
All right. That's
Thanks,
the great RJ Starcevich taking us around the track. And, boy, it's always something coming out of Memorial Day weekend because you got a lot of racing to talk. I feel like we got maybe a third of the questions and I want to ask him, but we'll have to save that for next week. We need to get to a break here and pay some bills. When we come back, we're going to be taking some best and worst of the weekend. So send those in to us here at the station. You are listening to the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida.
weather in the Panhandle never stops. Turn to 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with your latest forecast.
Up to the minute weather reports all day long.
A chance of thunderstorms and moderate rain.
In-depth storm coverage.
Winter Storm Enzo.
And breaking weather as it happens.
Hurricane Helene.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
We do have a tropical storm warning.
Rely on it.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida with your Tuesday's weather. The rest of the day, there will be a moderate breeze out of the south-southwest, some sun, and 86. Mostly clear skies tonight, about the same at 78. Tomorrow, partly sunny and a light breeze right around 6 miles per hour with a high of 86. About the same at 84 Thursday, and we'll have thunderstorms and very light rain. This forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
The Memorial Day mattress sale continues at the Sleep Center. Stop by the Sleep Center and save up to $800 on select Stearns & Foster adjustable mattress sets. Stearns & Foster, made in the USA and available at
Sleep Center, where it's bedtime all day long.
TK Vandy Roofing and General Contracting is a fifth-generation contracting company based right here out of Bay County. TK Vandy's expertise in commercial and residential roofing, as well as a design-build general contractor, set them aside as a versatile and fresh alternative to achieve your construction needs. Contact TK Vandy Roofing, 850-866-9908, or email support@tkvandy.com. They can't wait to help you.
The Memorial Day mattress sale continues at the Sleep Center. Stop by the Sleep Center and save up to $800 on select Stearns & Foster adjustable mattress sets. Stearns & Foster, made in the USA and available at
Sleep Center, where it's bedtime all day long.
You found us inside the CBC Construction Studios. Karen bought 83 liters of Dr. Thunder, a suitcase full of Cheez-Its, and a drum of Crisco. Now she's crying about using the self-check at Walmart.
Maybe we should speak to a manager or something.
Just saying. ESPN Northwest Florida.
I love some of the sounders we do here at the station. That's a great one. I've been behind that, Karen, a few times. Might even been this morning. Welcome back into the Afternoon Underdogs here. Brian Haddad sitting in for David Hayes today, joined by Chef Ross and Caveman Rick. And don't forget, folks, we will be heading up to Philly, the city of brotherly love, the city of champions.
Push on, baby. Push on.
There you go. As the Braves take on the Phillies tonight, first pitch will be right around 5:45, so we'll be getting out of here just a touch early and right about 1 hour. But right now, we got a little traffic jam and trivia for you here on the Afternoon Underdogs, and this is a good one here. Your trivia question for the day: who was the most recent player in Major League Baseball history to hit a home run both before turning 20 and after turning 40? So once again, that is your trivia question. If you know the answer, give us a call at 215-6290. You could win yourself a 12-pack of Buffalo Rock products and a gift card to that boot store. So again, trivia question for today: who was the most recent player in Major League Baseball history to hit a home run before turning 20 and after turning 40? Well, let's get to some best and worst of the weekend while we're waiting for that. So your best of the weekend, Chef Ross, you are on the clock.
All right. I'm going to go with the Cooper's Hill cheese rolling competition that happens every year in England for the best of the weekend, where the bunch of old men like me roll down a hill chasing a wheel of cheese.
This sounds an awful lot like England's version of the mullet toss over in Gulf Shores. And your worst?
And unfortunately, my worst of the weekend is the WNBA because they lost Caitlin Clark for 2 weeks.
Oh, goodness. We're really going to see what the effect is here, because we're not going to have her here for some of these games. We'll have to see how it affects ratings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no doubt.
I heard this morning that she's never missed a game throughout all of her Iowa career and last year. So
that's possible. Yeah.
That's impressive for as many shots as she takes. You know, that's That's interesting. Caveman Rick, best and worst?
Let's see. Worst, probably my Phillies taking that L against the A's. They had 9 wins in a row, going for 10, and they lose by 1 run yesterday. Sunday, not yesterday. So that was probably my worst of the weekend. Best of the weekend, probably just, the fact it's Memorial Day weekend, holiday. Kind of sucks my business. I'm in the car business, right? So we're open a lot of holidays. I was working yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, my work let me off like 30 minutes early. Like, hey, we're doing something for you. 30 minutes off early. Like, oh, gee, thanks. What am I going to do with that 30 minutes, But, so I still got out a little early. But other than that, yeah, it's a good weekend. I would say, though, I think a lot of businesses probably should, maybe take a cue to that.
Yeah.
A lot of people in this country talk about how, generations these days, these kids, and a lot of people don't have the same respect that they used to have from years ago. Maybe it's because people are working on days like that and not reflecting and taking time to teach their kids and to take the time to remember those things because they're too busy. And maybe if you do, maybe then in the long run helps you think about stuff like that more and have a little different attitude and look at stuff differently.
It's always such a tough balance. In our area that's so service industry and hospitality industry dominated is going to be worse for this than anything. But it's, when you work, your typical 9 to 5, your industrial, your factory job, your corporate job, whatever like that, you want your holidays, you want the service industries to be open so that you can go enjoy them and all like that. And you forget that takes people working in order to do. So that's the way it always, is around Memorial Day. Labor Day is the one I always hate.
Yeah.
Where it's literally it's supposed to be a day off of work and so many people have to work.
And like I said earlier, I lived overseas for a little while, right? Yeah. Albeit just 8 months, but a lot of places in other countries, they do that. When certain stuff happens, they shut down. You know what I mean? And it's
holiday
not a big
means
deal.
holiday.
And guess what? They get by. Everything gets done still. Nobody's their house is on fire. Nobody's coming to help them out. I mean, it's you get by, and everything will be just fine. So you don't have to, have every store open and do everything. And it's nice to see that finally, around Black Friday now, you're seeing a lot less before where stores want employees to come back after having Thanksgiving dinner so they can open at 9 p.m. so they can get all these people in, that early. And it's just what are you all doing?
Yeah.
You're missing the point.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's well said, too. Let me pivot here. My best for the weekend, I would say getting 5 SEC softball teams in the World Series and 13 baseball teams in the regionals was there. But I am stealing this one. I stole it before the show from Ross. My best of the weekend, I guess it counts because I think it was Friday. Or it might have been Saturday. I can't remember. The weenie race. The fact that we had 6 Oscar Mayer weenie mobiles on the track at Indy, which, by the way, those things cap out at 60 miles an hour. It is unbelievable how slow that looks on that track.
No doubt.
It looked like they were going 5 miles an hour. But there was a really great pass right at the line for what the sausage...
Slaw dog.
The slaw dog, that's right. The slaw dog to win.
Which I didn't know they had different ones. I didn't know they were actually different names. I just thought they just had the weenie mobile. And
I really thought there was just
number 1, number 2, number 3, and they weren't named after different types of hot dogs, So I guess that's kind of cool in a way, but...
I got to tell you, it was brutally slow to watch, which made it interesting in its own way. Go back and listen to the crowd, though, with that pass. They were into it. It was neat. 2-lap race, I think it took as long as the regular.
Yeah, no doubt when you're going that slow. What is it, 2.5 miles? So it's 5-mile long race.
Right? It is amazing, though. It really gives you perspective on those tracks for just how slow that looked. When Michael Strahan was driving the pace car at Indy, they were going 105, and that's the pace car, and that looked slow. 60 miles an hour just looks absolutely creepy. You couldn't get away with that at Talladega. You couldn't be on the bank. You'd have to be down.
It would
especially with the weight of that vehicle as well.
No doubt.
But yeah, that was my best. I thought the weenie race was great. My worst, I'm going to stay with racing. I don't know the answer to it though, but I really hate it when you get into this race. You have the race. You take the checkered, you've got the positions, and then hours or maybe even a day later, you have all these disqualifications that get going. I think Erickson got bumped from second to 31st or something like that at Indy. I know there's no way around it, because you have to do all the post-race inspection. I just hate when it comes that much later. It just... I don't know. I've never liked that. It just
it's like horse racing. You get a horse that wins a race, and then you find out like later, like the next day, it failed a blood test and it was doped up or whatever. And I mean, like the bettors, they got cashed out. They got their money already for that horse that shouldn't have won the right way. Even though like the championship or the trophies move in places, that money sure as hell ain't moving.
Yeah.
Once that money's given out, and you ain't getting it back.
Well, and it's fortunate too that like it wasn't from a race win, because you cannot recreate that moment of being in gasoline. I mean, specific to Andy, being in Gasoline Alley and getting the milk and the wreath of roses or whatever it is, and you can't recreate that, and I wish there was a way to do that more in real time.
There is,
but
stiffer penalties. Crush them harder. If they got crushed harder, after the fact,
fair enough.
Or maybe they couldn't race in that race next year because of like their infractions this year. Hell yeah, they're going to step it up, because that's a big deal. If they lose that ability to showcase and to do stuff like on like Indianapolis 500 weekend, that, I mean, like I said, it's a year-long preparation for that race.
Oh yeah.
If you lose that ability to do that, that's taking the legs out from underneath some of these companies.
My question
That's a good point.
How can you pass the pre-race inspection but still fail the post-race?
That's a good question.
I don't know, because they pit, and there's stuff that you can do in a pit. You know what I'm saying?
Enough.
So like, I mean, I'm sure people think, well, like they're underneath there pretty quick and they're in and they're out. But I mean, these guys, like I said, it's year-long preparation. You don't think they can't figure out how to do stuff in a short amount of time? I mean, these professionals.
Well, and they're actually
talking millions and millions of dollars.
And
billions.
I do know there are some things that they would normally flag that actually go by, because it might be due to contact, it might be due to certain things in the race that they are then able to investigate. But yeah, it's just, I think you're right. I do think stiffening the penalties would definitely,
I mean, most of the time, like,
be about all you can do.
In all sports that we see, it's a slap on the wrist for anything that you do for the most part. So you're better off doing the dirty work, because if the end result is getting a championship or winning the race or whatever, and you're really not going to get docked that or not going to take it away, then so what's taking the chance of losing a little bit of money here or a little bit of this there, when the end game is to win.
So, Caveman, did you find an athlete, or your first athlete, you hated yet?
I thought of a few. Not nobody really good yet.
So I want to stick with this, though, because it's less about my worst. I was listening to, I'm blanking on it. Is it Ryan McGee? It was part of Marty.
Yeah, Marty McGee, Ryan McGee, yeah.
So I was listening to his explanation of the Penske pre-race issues.
How it's similar to football?
With everything. What's that now?
How it's similar to football?
No, about what actually happened in order for Penske, the guys, to get pushed to the back and all like that. And I guess in sports, you expect, well, what's the old line? You ain't cheating, you ain't trying, especially in racing. But the thing that was so egregious about this issue with Penske, and I know they're claiming it was part of Dellara's, chassis that they sent and all like this, but apparently what they found that, and the reason it was such a big deal, is not just that they were trying to gain an aero advantage. It was a minimal aero advantage, but the byproduct of it, the way that it was explained is the back of these cars, when they were going into the wall, they were really causing major injuries to the drivers because it was so stiff, it was causing them spinal issues. So now the cars are designed to crumble in and actually absorb a lot of that impact. And what actually had happened was they took one of the areas where it's supposed to crush in and welded it and then sanded over the welding so you, quote, couldn't see it. So not only do you have an aero advantage, but you're making that car less safe.
Yeah, it's not safe, yeah.
So I get now why it was such a huge, huge deal. And Roger Penske, who I firmly believe is one of the men with the most integrity in sport, I do believe that. I think that's why he came out so strong. These are guys who've worked for him for 20 plus years. And he let them go because I do think he understood the seriousness of this. You cannot play around with safety when it comes to
Well, it's
your
not
drivers.
just safety. He's like the head of
He owns
Indy and
Indy.
stuff. So like that's like a conflict of interest. If you're like the head guy and then your team, which it's kind of a conflict of interest that you even have a team to begin
Certainly.
with. Do away with that. You don't even have to go down this road. But I mean, it is what do you call it? Damage control.
Sure.
Obviously, by doing that, and they lose a couple big wigs that I'm sure help you get to where you're at, though. But you got to save the empire, right?
Yeah. Well, and I get it, but I truly, I do truly believe, I may be wrong on this, and maybe, this is one of the few areas of my life where I see the glass half full. I do believe Roger Penske is one of the good guys, and I do think it really pained him to do it, but I think it was the right thing, and I do think it came from the right. And look, you can do that and still be in a level of damage control.
Oh, yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
Because you're right, it's not just Penske Racing going down, it's IndyCar. Yeah. It's the Indianapolis track. And
then he's also affiliated with NASCAR. So, a lot of dominoes go down in succession after that. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, golly, we've talked so much racing today, and I feel like we've barely scratched the surface because it was a heck of a weekend. But we need to get to another break here. But coming up next, we are going to pivot over because we got a lot of college sports to talk about with Steve Barnes, our buddy from the RebelWalk.com. That is coming up next. You are listening to the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida.
ESPN Northwest Florida. It's the Coach James Hale Show.
Losing to Michigan, you're on the hot seat.
Did you see his face after that loss? I thought he was going to drop dead of a heart attack.
Yeah, his face was red.
There was some demon that took over his body and made the words come out. Demons come out. Your quarterback said that.
On national TV.
On national TV.
Weekday morning 7 to 9. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good evening. This is Joanna on ESPN Northwest Florida with your weather forecast on this Tuesday. Partly cloudy tonight with a light breeze at 5 miles per hour coming out of the south-southwest and temps near 76. Tomorrow morning we will have a variety of very light rain and some sun and be hot at 86. A chance of thunderstorms and mostly sunshine in the afternoon and evening and a high 87. This forecast is brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Thank you for keeping that dial at ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Get ready for your next adventure and discover Kia at Bill Bird Kia today. Check out the 2025 SUV family. The road is yours. Take a test drive and see the all-new features that elevate any adventure. Now offering 1.9% APR up to 60 months on the purchase of a new 2025 Kia Sportage or a 2025 Kia Sorento. You'll get the perfect balance of comfort, safety, and technology. We'll treat you like family and give you the peace of mind that you can trust. Bill Bird Kia is the home of that 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty. Stop by and see us at 2435 East 15th Street or anytime at BillBirdKiaPanamaCity.com. See us today.
Offer from Kia Finance America for the purchase of a new 2025 Kia Sportage and a 2025 Sorento with $1,748 per month per 1,000 financed in 60 months. Quantities limited. Cannot be combined with other finance offers not available on balloon financing. The 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty is a Bill Bird Kia warranty. See dealer for complete details. Offer for well-qualified buyers. Must take delivery from dealer stock through 6/2/25.
WGSX Lynn Haven, WVLQ Port St. Joe. Powered by Panama City Toyota.
And that's out of the ballpark.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
Now, we're live and local inside the CBC Construction Studios. Hometown sports talk from hometown hosts.
People are loving it.
We're live and local. Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs.
Are you kidding me?
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
And welcome back to the Afternoon Underdogs here on a Tuesday. Brian Haddad sitting in for David Hayes, Chef Ross, Caveman Rick joining. And it's, we're just going to say it's like Monday. We had RJ earlier, and now we've got our Monday pal here at 5 p.m. like we do every week. Steve Barnes from the RebelWalk.com. Steve, how we doing today?
Refereeing a cage match between two chihuahuas in my bed.
Which one's the odds-on favorite?
I got to go Obi-Wan Kenobi, but she's the other one. She's got the upper hand right now. I'm just trying to keep them from growling too loud so I can hear it. But I'm kind of like watching handsome Jimmy Valiant against the King of Lawler from the old days.
I was going to say, I know that reference. I missed that bet on Hard Rock Bet, or I would have gotten in on Obi-Wan Kenobi on that one. But awesome. Steve, your best and worst from the weekend. We're a day late, but it counts.
Okay. My best, it came to a fruition on the weekend, but it started last fall. Mm-hmm. How about Ole Miss athletic director Keith Carter? Actually, he's not an athletic director. They call him the associate chancellor for athletics or something like that. But just this year, football team goes to a bowl game. Volleyball team goes to the NCAAs. Men and women basketball each reach the Sweet 16. Baseball's hosting a regional. Softball's in the World Series. And last weekend, Michael Lasasso for the golf team won the national title, and the team qualified for match play, and the women finished match play, and they finished in the top 25. The man knows what he's doing when he hires coaches.
I was going to say, I guess the only thing left is to go get the tennis kicking there.
Well, the thing is, I think he hired every coach except Bianco, because he's been there for 25 years.
That's right. Very cool. All right, now your worst.
This weekend, I got a chance. The Birmingham Barons were in town playing the Pensacola Blue Wahoo. Their second baseman was the Ole Miss shortstop from the national championship days, Jacob Gonzalez. And Pensacola's right fielder is Kemp Alderman, who was a right fielder in DH that year for Ole Miss. Went and interviewed them both. One was a jerk, and one is about as dumb as a box of rocks. And to complete that 2022 thing, for the worst, Tim Elko got sent back to Charlotte from the White Sox. And to bring my 2022 Rebels back to, I guess, full circle here, just one for you, Brian. Mississippi State at one point this season was 7-14. The Ole Miss national championship team at one point was 7-14.
Hey, I like it.
Ole Miss lost quickly in the SEC tournament. State lost quickly in the tournament, in the SEC tournament. In the regionals, they both had to go to the state of Florida. Ole Miss went down and swept everybody in Miami, and now State's going to Tallahassee.
That's right.
So hey, you know,
I like where this is going.
History repeats itself.
Yeah. The only difference I would say is Bianco was being talked about as getting fired, and State actually fired Lamonis. So
exactly.
Yeah.
But Brian did just book his tickets to Omaha.
Yeah, the Oma Dogs Part 2. That would be something. Well, I mean, let's transition into that. So, Steve, SEC baseball tournament, you know, there's always different mindsets over whether you'd like to make a long run, get some momentum going into the regionals, or whether you'd like to get out early, maybe get a little extra rest, this, that, or the other. This being the first year where everybody makes it and it's all single elimination. What were your thoughts on the SEC baseball tournament as a whole this year?
Still didn't like the double bye because Vanderbilt only had to play 3 games.
That's right.
Didn't like that, but just a couple of the individual play. Ike Irish from Auburn. How did he not get the Player of the Year? That guy's he's great. And their center fielder, I can't think of the kid's name, and he's from Pensacola. How did he not get the Freshman of the Year?
Yeah.
And the Ole Miss pitching staff, again, picked off like 4 runners. They're just, I mean, you don't run on them.
Yeah, 100% true. Ole Miss coming up just short there in Hoover, but I thought it was overall a good tournament. Fortunately, Mother Nature cooperated, as it did not in the softball tournament there at the end. We were able to get a champion in, even though we had to watch Vandy do it again. Looking ahead to the regionals, 13 SEC teams make it. A&M made a run at it, but I think they would have had to win the whole thing probably to make it.
Yeah, they would have had to win the tournament to get in.
8 hosts, I believe. 6 of the top 7 seeds were SEC, and Vandy takes the overall number 1. But let's talk about...
I think Ole Miss had to get to the championship game to host, or I think they'd have been on the road.
Yeah, I think you're right there. Well, let's start with Ole Miss there and them hosting a regional there in Oxford. Talk about the regional setup and what do you like about it for the Rebels?
Well, I think it's one of the tougher regionals.
Yeah.
I think the toughest is probably one in Hattiesburg with Miami, Alabama, USM, and Columbia. I think that's probably one of the toughest. But in Oxford is Western Kentucky, Georgia Tech, Ole Miss, and Murray State. I thought about this sometime in the middle of the night when I couldn't sleep. Ole Miss starts with Murray State, and then you got two good teams with Western Kentucky and Georgia Tech. Mm-hmm. Ole Miss should be a heavy favorite against Murray State. Why not throw your ace? Save him. Let your midweek starter go against Murray State. Then come back with your 1-2s in the second and third day.
Yeah. No, I think that makes sense. And look, I do follow college baseball. I mean, Georgia Tech, obviously ACC pedigree, they're a great team. Western Kentucky is one of the best 3 seeds out there, and nobody knows it. This is a tough draw for Ole Miss. I think your point about saving that ace is well-meaning, because whoever comes out of that 2-3 matchup going to give Ole Miss all that they want.
That's if Ole Miss gets by Murray State, because
that's right.
I think, didn't they win like 40 games?
Yeah, 39 and 13.
39.
Definitely one of the better 4 seeds as well. You're right. Absolutely crazy. Well, let's pivot over and let's talk about the ladies. How about that? The only team in the Women's College World Series not to have hosted a regional. The ladies go on the road twice, and they make it to the College World Series. One of 5 SEC teams to do so, and they... Good luck. Florida State found out how good that pitcher is at Texas Tech. They draw Texas Tech to start. What do you think about the Ole Miss softball team this year?
Well, they're the only unseeded team in Oklahoma City.
That's right.
But, again, there are 2 SEC matchups. I just, I guess there has to be, since there's so many teams. But Texas, Florida, and Tennessee, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
The other one is, an old Pac-12 thing with Oregon and UCLA.
Yeah.
But Ole Miss, it might be one of those don't let the Rebs get hot things, because they looked good out in Fayetteville.
Yeah, they did. No, 100%. Absolutely right. And I know a lot of people coming into the Florida State series. Now, Mississippi State actually went and played in Lubbock, so I got to see a little bit of Texas Tech. But and I can't remember her name to save my life, but this is the girl on basically the $1 million NIL deal that they pulled away from Stanford. She's probably the best pitcher in the country. Well, if not her, the one who used to be at Oklahoma, who's up at Nebraska now. But, I mean, that girl almost beat Florida State by herself. So you got to be a little bit worried about that when you look at the matchup.
I think Texas Tech's probably the most underrated program, athletic program in the country.
Sure.
They're stuck out in West Texas, in Lubbock. And the only positive I can think about that is Ole Miss Evie. Her son goes to med school out there. But I saw the first early prediction of next year's football playoff, and they got Texas Tech in it.
Interesting.
So, and their basketball's not bad. Their baseball's not bad. Their softball's in the World Series. I think Texas Tech might be just one of the underrated athletic programs in the country. And they're just sort of stuck out there by themselves. Even in the old Southwest Conference, everybody was in Central or East Texas or Arkansas, and they were just the outlier.
Yeah.
So I think they're easily, written off. Oh, they're just out there in the tumbleweeds. But they got athletes.
So, Steve, this World Series, is it Oklahoma and everybody else, or should there be a lot more competitive games throughout the weekend?
I didn't expect Ole Miss to be there. I thought Arkansas would be there, but they came back and took that one in 3. But Oklahoma's definitely the favorite.
Yeah, they're playing so good right now.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Florida's tough. I've watched them this year. I like them. They didn't play as well in their super regional, but they were able to get through. Texas, you can't count them out. UCLA, I think, is a little bit of a sleeper out there as well. Texas Tech, I mean, you got that one arm that can keep throwing. I mean, it's kind of a wide open. Yeah, I'm with Steve. I think Oklahoma has to be the favorite. I want to ask you a fun question here, Steve, because we're in SEC country for sure, and I asked this last week of our buddy who covers the Florida Gators down there, and he jokingly told me to bite my tongue, but it's a serious question. 5 of the 8 softball teams in the World Series are from the SEC. 13 SEC baseball teams make the regional. We fully expect probably 4, if not up to 6 or 7, are going to make it to Omaha from the SEC. For 2 sports that are in a good growth pattern, college baseball, college softball, is it a good or a bad thing to have so much SEC dominance as it is playing out in those sports, or would it be better if there were a little bit more representation from the West and maybe even from the ACC?
I think from a national fan perspective, it's not a great thing because, I remember, about 12 years ago, the World Series was the Yankees and the Mets. I don't think anybody outside Greater New York watched that.
Yeah.
But, the emergence of softball, they've only been playing fast-pitch softball in high school here for about 15 years.
That's right.
Because it should be slow pitch, and out west is where everybody was with UCLA and Stanford and even teams like Long Beach State.
Mm-hmm.
They were the dominant ones, but now it seems like it's going, more southern, and it gives those high school kids, more options to get a scholarship now because they weren't getting a slow pitch softball scholarship,
right.
But they're getting the fast pitch. Now, there's one kid I sort of feel sorry for, and I sort of don't. She's from over here in Flomaton, Alabama, just over the line, which is basically Century, Florida, but over the bridge.
Right.
Jalea Lassiter, she played at Ole Miss her freshman-sophomore year. Played center field, was leadoff. She led off the first game of her career. She was a leadoff hitter.
Wow.
So she had some success, but she left Ole Miss to transfer because she thought the team was going nowhere. She went to LSU. Well, now Ole Miss is in the College World Series. LSU's at home.
Yeah, crashed out in the regional they hosted. That's right.
You sort of got to, maybe the grass isn't always greener.
Exactly right. I was talking to a friend of mine today who played college baseball, surprisingly enough, at Ole Miss, and we were talking about kind of this same thing. And in baseball, more specifically, you made the point in softball, but think about 20, 30 years ago, the dominance in college baseball. You had Miami, you had Texas, you had all the SEC teams, but think about USC, UCLA, Cal State Fullerton, San Diego State, Pepperdine was great, Oregon State, Arizona State, Wichita State. There was so much good baseball being played out west that doesn't seem like it is anymore. And they don't have the weather excuse. Oregon State might, but they don't have the weather excuse. It's truly a product of their own demise with Western baseball that you're just not seeing that level of interest in the sport. I don't know if it's at the high school level as well, but certainly not at the collegiate level.
Is this something that could be cyclical that turns around in 10 years and it's back being more balanced or more West Coast?
I guess it could, but
or honestly, how much of it has to do with the demise of the Pac-12?
It could be partly that. Steve, could it be just the fact that these schools aren't investing in baseball the way... Look, you and I both know Starkville has always invested in baseball, and Baton Rouge did to an extent. Ole Miss really started doing it in the late 90s.
Florida's got amazing.
Everybody in the SEC has poured millions into baseball now. Is it as simple as that?
Well, first, Oregon State, you got to feel for them. They had to put together a schedule. They are not in a conference, basically.
That's right.
And they only played 19 home games this year. They were on the road, basically. But now they get to host a regional. So does Oregon, by the way.
Yeah.
So I think Oregon and Mississippi are the only two teams, or the only two states that have 2 regionals in it.
Oh. I didn't think of that.
So,
and Mississippi State contributed not to that.
Well, the one thing I will say about Mississippi State forced the rest of the conference to get off their butts and invest in baseball.
No, that's true.
When I was in school there, Swayze Field was not Swayze University Stadium with the beer showers and 6,000 people in the crowd every week. It was it was basically a municipal park.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, I mean, a friend of mine who, Derek Ladner, who now was the director of scouting for the Astros, he played at Ole Miss, and he went and scouted a game last year or 2 years ago. And he said, "Do you remember that cow pasture we played in when I was in school?" they would have killed to play. He would have killed to have played in the stadium they have now with all those facilities. Mississippi State's the one that brought everybody in, because I remember back in spring '84 going out, and the place was packed. It held like 400 people. It was packed because State came in and they had Palmero, Clark, Bobby Thigpen, and we wanted to see those guys.
Yeah.
And I mean, a buddy of mine went with me to one of the ball games. He couldn't name 5 players on the Ole Miss roster, but he knew the entire lineup of Mississippi State because they were getting on TV.
Yeah.
And they couldn't have broadcast from Oxford back then.
No, that's true. Like I said, they really made their investment in the mid to late 90s, and it paid off from there.
Well, I think, that probably is the main reason the SEC got so good. But secondly, started bringing in people like Skip Burtman from Miami, went to LSU.
True.
So you started doing that. Then, also Bianco goes to Ole Miss after, playing at LSU for Burtman. So, just look at the quality of the facilities now. Tennessee's got a great ballpark. Vanderbilt's going to upgrade again. And it's not going to hurt they're the number 1 seed of the tournament. The boosters are going to pump some money back into that.
That's right.
Georgia, Foley Field looks nice.
Florida just redid theirs a couple years ago. Yeah.
Well, it's good enough that the NCAA says, yeah, you're going to host if you get in. You're going to host. We want it. We want it there.
That's right. Well, we always made the joke, Mississippi State, it didn't matter what our record was, we were always going to host a regional in the 90s because we had a stadium that could host. So now you're right. There's a lot of people who've invested, and now you actually got to do it on the field. Steve, I always feel like... Go ahead.
Smaller schools have even benefited. Southern Miss wouldn't have P. Taylor Field if it wasn't for Mississippi State.
That's right.
Troy wouldn't have the new Riddle Face Field if it weren't for, the emergence of Southern baseball.
Yep.
Because they had the field when I worked at Troy, right field, you would literally, there was a street right behind it. And literally 2 or 3 times a year, a home run ball would hit a car going down the road.
I did that in high school.
I love it. Oh, my goodness.
There's a parking lot from a dorm. It's just down the right field line. And the rule used to be, and I'm not kidding, that if you parked your car in the dorm parking lot and you got hit, you were liable for the damage. If you were driving down University Drive and got hit by a home run, the university was liable for the damage.
That's crazy. Oh, my goodness.
So it was Pace Hall, and it was a female dorm, and all the girls would lay out, get sun there, and they called it Pace Beach. But on a baseball game, all those girls would move their cars.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. That's when people coming in would be like, wow, I got a great parking spot. Now you know why. Steve, I'd love to talk.
Florida, we were at UWF. When I was at UWF, we had a PA announcer, standard line. Every time, a foul ball would go over the press box, he would hit a car, and his standard line was, well, at least in Florida, there's no deductible for a windshield.
I love it. Steve, I know I could talk to you all day. We got to get out of here, buddy. Check out the rebelwalk.com. Always love talking with you, even if it's on a Tuesday, and we'll talk to you next week on Monday like normal.
Sounds good. Love y'all like fried chicken.
I love it. Steve Barnes from the rebelwalk.com. And, man, it is a good time to be an Ole Miss fan, and he's got a lot to write about there, so make sure you check that out. We get back, we'll talk a little Major League Baseball. We'll step it up here, and we'll get into that. You're listening to the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida.
Your attention, please. ESPN Northwest Florida reminds you it's the law. It's the law. When there's a double red flag, Stay out of the water, stick your toes in the sand, grab a cold drink, and listen to live sports.
Swung on, miss, strike 3.
On 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Double play!
Good evening. This is Joanna on ESPN Northwest Florida with your weather forecast on this Tuesday. Partly cloudy tonight with a light breeze at 5 miles per hour coming out of the south-southwest and temps near 76. Tomorrow morning, we will have a variety of very light rain and some sun and be hot at 86. A chance of thunderstorms and mostly sunshine in the afternoon and evening and a high 87. This forecast is brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Thank you for keeping that dial at ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
CBC Construction is looking for a few good men. At CBC Construction, our greatest strength lies within our talented team. Join us and be a part of a dynamic company that values its people. We offer a tremendous opportunity to create a future for your family and the Florida Panhandle. CBC Construction is now hiring. Call us at 850-740-3815 or visit cbcconstruction.com to learn more. CBC Construction. Be part of a winning team.
Experience a higher level of service. David Adamson Designer Jewelry has been providing you the very best of fine jewelry and repair in Lynn Haven for over 32 years. David has added Amber Anderson and Russ Clare, names you've known and trusted in PCB for years with your fine jewelry and watch needs. Find that one-of-a-kind engagement ring, that special anniversary gift, or something colorful just for you. Amber and Russ will find it or build it for you. Serving Bay County and beyond in Lynn Haven at the corner of Ohio Avenue and 9th. David Adamson Designer Jewelry.
You found us inside the CBC Construction Studios.
But to beat a man, you gotta beat the man.
It's the Afternoon Underdogs on the Sports Talk Monster.
You're gonna be mine. Woo!
ESPN Northwest Florida.
Always love when Ric Flair brings us back on the air. Woo! You're listening to the Afternoon Underdogs here on ESPN Northwest Florida. Brian Haddad sitting in for Dave today. Chef Ross, Caveman Rick. I'm going to need y'all's help here, folks, because we have a little Major League Baseball take it or trash it. And I don't mean the Rockies.
Trash it.
Here we go.
Put some money on them to lose.
Here we go. Let's start right at the top.
Super quick.
Yep.
If the Rockies are that terrible right now, why not throw the whole Major League roster down to AAA and bring the AAA roster up? They can't do any worse.
That's fair enough. I don't think they can do any worse.
I don't know about that. I don't know if they can do that, like, with the money, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, fair enough.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's start right at the top. We have a bunch of these, so we're going to get right into it. A little short segment here. We got to get a break in before we come back. We'll do one more segment and then get to the Braves-Phillies game. The Yankees are the team to beat in the American League. Take it or trash it?
I'm going to trash it right now. I think that Detroit is pitching well, hitting well, playing very well. So I'll take Detroit.
I'll say the Yankees are, the team to beat right now. Their run differential, they got they're plus 111 or something right now. They're putting up lots of runs. So, yeah, Yankees.
I like the young Tigers team, but I'm a Yankees fan, and they have the experience of having gotten to the World Series last year. I will say they are a slight favorite in the team to beat, so I'll take it as well. Number 2, Major League Baseball should permanently move opening day to a Saturday. Take it or trash it?
Yeah, take it.
I don't know. I mean, this is the game of tradition, right?
Yeah.
So why move it? I mean, keep it the same way if that's the way baseball usually likes to do stuff.
I speak as someone who doesn't have a hard and fast 9 to 5, so I've never minded when they start early on a weekday. It's okay for me. So personally, I'll take it, but I get it. So, number 3, the Dodgers will not repeat as World Series champs in 2025. Take it or trash it?
I will take that they will not. I don't think they'll get there. They don't have the chemistry they had last year.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same. Just because you got the best team on paper doesn't necessarily mean you make it to the end. So, they've had some injury woes. So I'm going to say there's going to be some hiccups there one way or the other, and they're not going to be there.
And they're going to be dumb enough to pitch Shohei instead of just let him DH.
Fair enough. I'm going to trash it, 1, to be argumentative, but number 2, because I did take the Dodgers before the season, so I want to be somewhat consistent. I had them over the Rangers, which that's not panning out great right now, but we'll have to wait and see. I'll trash that. I do think the Dodgers will repeat. Number 4, The Red Sox should fire Alex Cora if they miss the playoffs again.
I'm going to trash that. Alex Cora is a good manager, a good coach. They have young talent. If you fire him, who are you going to replace him with?
All right. I don't know here. I'm going to say, yeah, get rid of them. If they don't make the playoffs, you can get rid of them. I mean, like, you got, especially in the division against the Yankees and stuff, you got to make the playoffs.
I'm going to take it and I'm not someone who loves firing coaches, but only because really outside of the Yankees and the Tigers, the American League's wide open. And I was talking before the show, the AL East does not impress me this year. It's there to be taken. If you're a great manager, you find a way to get your team in position. I understand if you're dealing with the NL West, where there's 4 teams who I think could go to the World Series. The AL, I don't even think has that much in the whole league. So to me, I do think you move on here because it is ripe for the taking, and they are playing under 5. They're 2 games under 500, 7.5 back of the Yankees. You can't do that in Boston. Number 5, baseball needs more rivalries and trash talk.
Take it.
Yeah, all day long. I mean, the more like rivalries you got, the more hate you got out there with people and teams, the more interest you get. I mean, we know how the Yanks and Sox used to always get, right?
Yeah.
Lots of ratings for stuff like that. So, yeah, there needs to be more animosity.
I'm not a trash talk bat flip guy, but I agree that it absolutely needs more rivalries. There's nothing better than Yankees Red Sox hate that just goes back and forth. Like, I don't think you need to, do like the college baseball had this week with the kid running down the line and goating up all the players and all like that. But, maybe
like players staring down each other, pitchers staring down a batter or vice versa or something like that.
Yeah. I think and look, the fans are the ones who drive that. You can have that. I mean, Cubs, Cardinals, classic rivalry. Lean into that. Dodgers, Yankees was great for the World Series because it's historic. Dodgers, Giants is a big one that unfortunately has spilled over into violence a little too much with the fans. But I would lean into the rivalry part, not as much with the trash.
You want to do one more real quick before we go to a break?
Yeah, let's get one more in here. Fernando Tatis Jr. is better defensively in right field than he ever was at shortstop.
I don't have a lot of information on this. I liked him at shortstop, so I'll trash it.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I don't got a lot on it, but I just think he's been playing, I think, better like lately. So I don't know. I'm going to trash it.
I played both positions. I played almost everywhere on the field. And look, I'm going to anger some right fielders here. Right field is significantly easier to play than shortstop.
100%,
so
no doubt.
I think I'll take it, but only because I think it's an easier position to play. So sorry, right fielders. You can direct all your hate to the station. I won't be here.
Well, you're picking dandelions.
That's right. We need to get to a break here real quick. When we get back, we're going to finish this up. We're also going to talk a little barbecue. It's that time of year here. Coming up next, you're listening to the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida.
Come on vacation.
Summer vacation. Hey, how's your vacation going?
Leave on probation.
Sheriff's deputies in Panama City Beach arresting 161 people during an out-of-control spring break weekend.
Welcome to the Emerald Coast. Have a great time at the beautiful beaches, but not like end up in the back of a police cruiser great. A friendly reminder from 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Golf is a game that should be fun, but to have the most fun, you need to play your best. That's where the experts at Golf Plus come in. Their friendly staff will guide you through the buying process, answer all your questions, and can help with any repairs you need along the way. Golf Plus is your custom fitting, club repair, and golf retail shop. Golf Plus staff is non-commissioned and will work with you to find the best product for your game, just like they've been doing since 1988. Golf Plus in Dothan and Panama City Beach. Fitting, repair, retail. That's Golf Plus.
HappyBooks helps small business owners save over 100 hours a year on bookkeeping and save $5,000 to $7,000 a year in expenses. Let HappyBooks handle your bookkeeping so you can do what you do best. Grow your business. They are a small business specializing in serving other small businesses. Call HappyBooks now for a free consultation. 850-867-6973. That's 850-867-6973. Or take the first step on their Facebook page or website, happybookstoday.com.
Lone Star Boil House and Sports Bar, where the locals go for the best boiled seafood around. Crawfish, shrimp, red royals, and everything crabs. Watch almost every sporting event in the country on their huge outdoor jumbotron. Follow them on Facebook to stay up to date on weekly events, live music, and food and beer specials. Lone Star Boil House and Sports Bar. Your home away from home for sports, good times, and great food. The best boiled seafood. Lone Star Boil House and Sports Bar. 320 West 5th Street, downtown Panama City.
Now, we're live and local inside the CBC Construction Studios. Chop on, Braves fans.
That is gone!
Since 2017, your home for the Atlanta Braves on the Gulf Coast. Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs. ESPN Northwest Florida.
And welcome back. Final segment of today because we got to get up to the Braves and the Phillies. We'll be heading out there in about 12 minutes from now. But before we do that, it's kind of that time of year here, Chef Ross. 4th annual Pops Pig Pickin' Barbecue. It's right around the corner here. Talk to us about it.
So 2 weeks from Saturday, June 14th, over at the Break Room, 2727 Joan Avenue. I've got a whole hog barbecue going on, all the sides and fixins. Thank you to all of my amazing sponsors, Gulf Plus, here ESPN Radio, Pineapple Willie's, the Break Room itself, Team MVP with Leanne. I couldn't do any of this without you guys. Thank you so much. It means a lot to me that I can be able to, honor my dad, who was a great man. I'm not just saying that because he's my dad. He was a really great man in my life. I touched a lot of people's lives here and around the station. And then use the proceeds that are gained from that to go feed any hurricane victims or natural disaster victims that are coming up. And it does pain me to say that there will be hurricanes and natural disasters. I want to be all rainbows and butterflies, but I'm also living in the real world that we live in Florida. We live in the Gulf Coast, and there's hurricanes that hit every year. Yep. And they're devastating. So I can go use that and spread some 850 love to some people that I don't know where I'm going because I'm not a weatherman, but...
Well, and we can do it for a great cause. We can have a great time, and we can eat some great food. That sounds like quite the triple, if you will.
I did redo the pool tournament rules. That spots tournament is too difficult to explain, too difficult to figure out where your handicap is if you're not a league player. So simple rules: 8-ball, race to 2. And that's a $15 to get into that. And then for $2, once per game, you can buy a mulligan and take another shot. So mulligan rules is it can't be on the 8-ball. Okay. And it has to be a legal shot that you hit before and can make the mulligan. So you can't screw up and say your 4 balls buried behind 5 stripes. So knock those 5 stripes out of the way, clear the 4 ball so you can get your table.
I see.
But if you miss your shot, you can spend $2 and get back on the table and use a mulligan.
Hey, nice. Better chance to finish well and bring more money in for the charity, so that'd be great.
It's like a buy-in in a poker tournament, like a rebuy.
Yeah, or a mulligan in a golf tournament. Absolutely right. So, which I need lots of. Well, very cool. We're definitely looking forward to that, and we're going to be talking about that more the closer we get to it. So, the 4th annual Pops Pig Pickin' Barbecue. Well, let's get back to a little take it or trash it. We got some great questions left here, and this is going to take us all the way to hopefully the Braves taking it over Caveman Rick's Phillies.
Man, we'll see, man. We got a good one tonight, man. I think Ranger Suarez did pretty good.
I just want to make sure you're listening.
Oh, heck yeah.
All right, here we go. Next, we're going to skip ahead here. Number 8. Now we're getting into my time. Ozzie Smith's glove was more valuable than Cal Ripken's bat. Ooh, that's a good one.
I'm going to take that because I think Cal Ripken's glove was more valuable than Cal Ripken's bat.
It's an interesting take. He's certainly an undervalued defensive player. I agree with that.
I don't know what I'd say about this one. Ozzie, I lived in St. Louis for a while too, so he's huge. I want to say, his glove was more valuable than Cal Ripken's bat. Even though Cal Ripken played in a lot of games consecutively, I think that Ozzie Smith's glove in defensively, it probably helped the Cardinals out more than Cal Ripken helped the Orioles when he played, do anything like in the playoffs, postseason, that kind of stuff.
I agree, more valuable, but slightly. And I do think that, number one, Cal Ripken was a much better defensive shortstop than he ever gets credit for. But Ripken at short, Sandberg at second helped redefine the position. A lot of people don't understand late 70s, early 80s, shortstops and second basemen did not hit for power.
Yeah.
These guys help redefine those positions going forward. And but yeah, very slightly, I'll take Ozzie over Cal Ripken's bat. Number 10. No, I'm going to go to number 9. Kirby Puckett was the heart and soul of 80s baseball in the Midwest.
Trash it. I can name 5 other players from other Midwest teams that were very hot in the 80s.
Yeah, I think I'd probably sell that one or get rid of that one as well.
I want to trash it as well just because he beat us, the Braves, in the 91 World Series, and I haven't forgiven him yet. But he was great. He was in that mix, but we were naming them before. You had Brett, you had Sandberg, you had Ozzie Smith, you had Yount, you had Molitor. I mean, there were a lot of guys in the Midwest back then. We're not even getting up to Detroit with Trammell and Whitaker and Jack Morris and Kurt Gibson and those guys. So, yeah, I'm going to trash that as well. Well, this is a good parlay into number 10. Baseball was more entertaining in the 80s than it is today. Caveman and I may have a different take than you, but we'll see.
I love small ball, so I love the 80s baseball where bunting, stealing, and plus the game was over in 2 hours and 10 minutes. So I'm gonna take it.
For me, I'm going to say I think it was better back then because I think you had pitchers going, complete games or going like a lot more than 5 innings. It was a lot more truer example of what the game is or how it's supposed to be played. Ross just mentioned the small ball. That was all right, too. You still had stealing. You still had all the other things.
Guys could hit 300.
Yeah, and you still had the shift.
Are bad.
If people, a team wanted to employ the shift, they can do that. So I would say, yeah, definitely in the 80s, it was a lot better.
I'm going to play word salad, but agree almost exactly with everything you just said. The word on this is entertaining. I'm going to say baseball to the general public is more entertaining today. Baseball was better in the 80s.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
So I agree for all of the reasons you stated.
It depends on, too, what your entertainment definition is. Is just lots of, strikeouts and runs being scored, or is there actually, action in the game and stuff, strategy?
We had amazing manager meltdowns in the 80s and early 90s
Earl Weaver.
that are very entertaining.
Look, Maddox and Glavin said it in the commercial, chicks dig the long ball.
You had more, like we talked about earlier, too, more rivalries, a lot more animosity with teams and stuff like that. Of course, too, players didn't change teams as often, too, so they stayed on those teams a lot
100%.
longer, so that built up those rivalries against other teams.
Let me throw one real quick that's not on the sheet. Interleague baseball ruined baseball. Interleague play ruined baseball. Take it or leave it.
See, I
don't know
hate
about that.
interleague baseball.
Yeah,
but I won't say it ruined it. Because I do think there have been some positives.
They play enough games that you should be able to play every team in the league. I mean, when you play that many games, at least a couple times. I don't think that should be a problem.
It's fair. I don't think it's ruined it. I don't like it, but that's a personal thing. I always loved the World Series when you got them together for the first time, but I get it. All right, here's a fun one that never gets brought up. Barry Bonds was already a Hall of Famer before he ever bulked up.
I take it. I said that from the beginning, that just his numbers in Pittsburgh alone, he was on track to be a Hall of Famer.
I would say if you cut it off, at the time his head started to swell, it's argumentative. I don't know that he would have made it because I think longevity, there's something to be said there, too, about making it into the Hall of Fame. And, yeah, if you were great for just 6 or 7 years or something like that and had really good numbers, but you weren't able to play for, 15, 20 years, there's something to that. So I think it'd be very questionable still.
See, I think he was, and because of the type of player he was, I think he would have continued to be able to be that type of player. I don't think he was someone who maybe more like a Frank Thomas was going to physically break down the older he got.
Plus playing for the Pirates, too. I mean, you're playing for a scrub team.
But he was 3 MVPs in before most people think, and to me, 3 MVPs is a Hall of Fame career, even if you do get cut short. I'm one of the few people who think Trout is a lock for the Hall of Fame. I understand why people don't, but to me, if you've won 3 MVPs, even if you don't live up to expectations or your career gets cut short, I would go with that.
Yeah, we got 1 more minute.
Let's get one more in very quick. This one's fun. Greg Maddox's command was more valuable than Randy Johnson's velocity.
I agree. 92 on the black is a lot better than 99 anywhere.
Yeah. Again, it's argumentative too on who's making the calls and the pitch, the strike zone and all that being different. So today, though, you need the velocity, though, too. So I don't know. But back when they pitched, I would say probably, having it on target was more important.
I'm going to go with Maddox as well. But like you said, we're probably using a different lens than would be the case today.
So about 30 more seconds.
All right, last one. This one's not as easy as it sounds, but quick. Well, you know what? I'm going to hold this one, but I'll give you to think about this off air because it's not as easy as it sounds. Nomar Garciaparra had a better prime than Derek Jeter. Do a little research on Nomar's 3 or 4 years there when he was at his best.
Yeah.
That one might interest you.
We came in hotter than Jeter. I'll give you that.
Absolutely right. Well, we had a great show today. Thank you, Chef Ross. Thank you, Caveman Rick. We're going to take you up now to Citizens Bank Park in the city of brotherly love, where the Bravos take on probably the hottest team in baseball, the Philadelphia Phillies. Let's go get them, Braves.
Chop off.
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida has the most college and local sports anywhere on the Panhandle. Join the Coach Hale Show, mornings from 7 to 9, live from the J. Michaels Studio.
Best seafood, the Coles beer.
High school coverage, the SEC and beyond. It's all right here. Mornings on ESPN Northwest Florida.